Technique 37. What to do. This joke doesn't fall too far out of the tree. How many apples grow on a tree? All of them. Some portion of student noncompliance, and a larger portion than many teachers ever suppose, is caused not by defiance, but by incompetence, by students misunderstanding a direction, not knowing how to follow it, or tuning it out in a moment of benign distraction. Recognizing this means giving directions to students in a way that provides clear and useful guidance. This technique makes directions routinely useful and easy to follow. Thinking logically, it is far better to tell your students what to do than it is what not to do. In schools, we spend a lot of time defining the behavior we want by the negative. Don't get distracted. Stop fooling around. That behavior was inappropriate. And these commands are vague, inefficient, and unclear. They force students to guess what you want. They don't know what to do. You need to tell them. What is the it in cut it out? When you tell a student to pay attention, ask yourself if he or she knows how to pay attention. Has anyone ever taught them? Do they know your specific expectations for paying attention? Has anyone ever helped them learn to avoid and control distractions? The command pay attention provides no useful guidance because it fails to teach. One of our primary jobs is to tell students what to do and how to do it. Telling students what to do rather than what not to do is not only far more efficient and effective, but it refocuses us, the teachers, even in moments that are about behavior, on teaching. This type of action reinforces the belief that teaching can solve problems. Just telling kids what to do is not enough. To be effective, direction should be specific, concrete, sequential, and observable. Effective directions are specific. They focus on manageable and precisely described actions that students can take. So instead of advising a student to pay attention, I might advise the student to put down their pencil on the desk or keep their eyes on me. This provides useful guidance that the student can take action on and pay attention in doing so. It's easy to remember, solution-oriented, and hard to misunderstand. Effective directions are not just specific. They involve clear, actionable tasks that any student knows how to do. If I tell my student to pay attention, he may or may not know what to do. But if I tell them to put their feet under their desk, I have asked him or her to do something no student can misunderstand or not know how to do. If the student still appears to struggle, I can get more concrete. Turn your body to face me. Bring your legs around. Put them under your desk and push in your chair. These are real things, physical, simple, commonplace. There is no gray area in this command, and no finesse or prior knowledge required to follow through. And the elimination of such gray area allows me to better understand the intention of my student. Since a complex skill like paying attention is rarely equated with a single specific action, effective directions should describe a sequence of concrete, specific actions. In the case of the student who needs help paying attention, I might advise them, mince up, put your feet under your desk, put your pencil down, and put your eyes on me. I might add something like, when I write it on the board, that means you write it in your notes. Students need constant reminders of what they should be doing in class. We can't expect them to know unless we tell them. When I give directions, I'm careful not to just give a sequence of specific steps to follow. I describe observable actions, things that I could plainly see a student do. And this is important, since my directions focus on a series of steps that are specific and simple enough that any student could reasonably be expected to do them. Now this is important. This observational component of my directions leaves my students with little wiggle room in terms of their accountability. If I tell my students to pay attention, I can't really tell whether they're doing so, and therefore I can't hold them accountable very effectively. They'll protest, right? I was paying attention, I just wasn't looking at you. However, if I tell my students, put your feet under your desk, put your pencil down, and get your eyes on me, I can see perfectly well whether it's been done or not. And the students know perfectly well that I can see whether it's been done or not. And therefore, it's more likely to get done. Observing students in the time immediately following directions is really important, because students, when they see you looking, have two options: compliance and defiance. This technique allows you to distinguish between incompetence and defiance by making your commands specific enough that they can't be deliberately misinterpreted, and helpful enough that they explain away any gray areas. You have to understand the difference between incompetence and defiance. If I ask a student to pay attention, or to sit up, or get on task, and he doesn't, knowing whether he will not or cannot deeply matters. If he cannot, the problem is incompetence. If he will not, the problem is defiance. And I try to respond to these situations differently. If the issue is incompetence, my obligation is to teach. If I'm punished for not complying when they are unable to do so, the consequence will seem unjust. I will punish the person for what they do not understand or can't do. And this will erode my relationship with my student and teach them that consequences are disconnected from actions. If they happen for reasons that the student does not fathom, they are random to the student. Psychological studies suggest that learned helplessness, the process of giving up because you believe your own actions and choices are irrelevant, generally results from a perception that consequences are random. Make sure your consequences are justified and understood. Now, if a student will not do what I ask, the issue is defiance, and my obligation is to provide a consequence. Unless I act clearly and decisively in the face of a challenge to my authority, students will establish a precedent of impunity. They can do whatever they want. The student and his classmates will know that the student, and arguably anyone else who's willing to, can successfully challenge me for the rest of the year. And when I let go of my authority in this way, I'm abdicating my responsibility to protect the environment in which the rest of the students live and learn, and thus their right to an equal and quality education. If I respond to defiance with teaching, I'm just as bad off as I respond to incompetence with punishment. Making the distinction well is probably the most important part of what to do. Arguably, it is one of the most important tools for building classroom culture. By giving concrete, specific, observable directions, simple and clear enough that anyone of good faith could do them if they wanted, you can make the distinction consistently and fairly. When you do this, you can task students who are struggling with actions that allow you to know the difference, so you can teach when you should teach and exert your authority when you must.